Again, I just want to thank y'all for being here. Thank you for the opportunity that I have to serve Henderson County. Great time to be here, and I believe our governor's coming in. This time, our acting comptroller, Kelly Hancock, comptroller, my friend. Kelly, welcome. Give everyone a round of applause, yes. Kelly, thank you for your friendship. Appreciate your work.
All right. Thank you, Keith. I appreciate you all being here. And Cody, great to see everybody. Great to be in East Texas. Thanks for having us. My name is Kelly Hancock, and I am your acting controller. The problem I had is I made friends with the Governor Abbott, and I served several years in the House, Texas House, several years in the Texas Senate, where I was chair of Veteran Affairs and Border Security until about July. And then Glenn Hager, our former comptroller, went off to this little school in College Station called Texas A&M and left a little opening in the comptroller's office. So Governor Abbott asked me if I would step in and run the comptroller's office throughout the rest of Glenn's term, and then actually run for office as well. So I am running for the comptroller's office as well as being the acting comptroller, endorsed by our wonderful Governor Greg Abbott. And on the campaign trail, you're going to hear a lot of rhetoric, right? Well, the fortunate thing I have is I've actually been in the office for 8 months. And in that 8 months, I can actually tell you what we've already done in just 8 months in the comptroller's office. And so we happen to be much more about results than rhetoric. So let me share a few of those things with you. Number one, I went from being chair of Veteran Affairs and Border Security, where I actually joined Governor Abbott and President Trump when we started that border wall, and it was working great until we had an election. When we had that election, all of a sudden we had to have Operation Lone Star. Well, we spent billions of your taxpayer dollars doing what the federal government would not do under Joe Biden's administration. Well, then we had the great big beautiful bill with $11 billion in it. So now our office is now working with the Trump administration to get that $11 billion back so we can use it to lower your taxes and address property tax here at the local level as well. We're following up on that. We're also working with rural law enforcement. Law enforcement providing grants through our office to law enforcement for personnel, for equipment, and working with ICE as well to make sure we continue to curtail illegal immigration in the state of Texas. But we're just getting started there. When I entered the office, we had what was called a historically underutilized business program within the office. Well, Governor Abbott had a few months earlier asked the agencies across the state to get rid of all DEI-based programs. HUB is nothing but DUI using different letters. It is race and gender-based, and we got rid of that program, turned it into a veterans program to help our disabled veterans, and no more will we spend your taxpayer dollars on quotas or race-based programs. What I've told every agency we're going to do, as long as I'm comptroller, is we're going to make sure that we maximize every dollar we spend from the state, that we operate as efficiently and as effectively as possible. And what that means is every contract, every purchase, every procurement we enter into, we look for best value and nothing more. No more race-based quotas in the state of Texas throughout all agencies. We've gotten rid of DEI in the comptroller's office for just our second month. We're not done yet. We still have results we want to share with you. Frankly, I'm a little bit of a workhorse. I'm not a show horse, which you do have. You've got workhorses up here in the legislature, every single one of them. And they'll tell you, there are show horses and workhorses. These guys don't have time for social media because they're busy working. That's what we've been doing. We launched, starting in September, the largest education freedom account program in the nation, providing school choice for parents across Texas for the first time in the state of Texas, and we set records in doing that. But we didn't just do that alone. As a legislature, when I was in the legislature with these guys, we provided education funding at the highest levels ever. I spent 13 years on a local school board, and while I'm in control or operating over this school choice program, I go back to where my kids graduated in public school and where I spent 13 years on a local school board to make sure that we're just using this as step one into creating the greatest education program in the state of Texas. And I know that's what the governor wants, and that's what we want as we provide education freedom for the first time ever in the state of Texas. But we ran into some problems. As I had staff researching some of these schools and these institutions, what we found is that there were links to terrorist organizations, to foreign adversaries for the state and for America, and we had an issue. Do we let every school into this program, or do we say no to those that are linked to terrorist organization or foreign adversaries? And our office, under our leadership, waiting for protection from the Attorney General's office, which he provided after a few weeks, we said no. There's no way we're sending a penny of your taxpayer dollars to anybody linked to a terrorist organization or foreign adversary as long as I'm in office, and we're not going to allow that to happen. And so again, there's a lot of rhetoric out there, but we've got results. We've got results in 8 months, and we've got more work to do moving this agency into what I'm used to as a business owner, into more of a business mindset where we're operating faster, quicker, more efficient, and with more transparency and accountability in the comptroller's office. What I'm asking you for is 4 more years. I'm going to finish Glenn Hager's term in January. What I need for you to remember is Kelly Hancock when you go to the polls. Kelly Hancock for comptroller. I'm actually on not too far down. I voted this weekend. I was happy to find I'm not as far down as I was when I was a House rep. I'm not as far down as I was in the Senate. I'm pretty close. So you don't have to remember it very long. And I'm asking for your support as we help get out the vote, make sure Texas stays red, make sure it stays ruby red, and I'd appreciate your support and I'd appreciate your vote. Kelly Hancock for comptroller, thank you all very much. It's great to be with you. Now you're going to meet, when you fly around and you sit as close as you become pretty good friends. Help me welcome Nate Sheets, your next Ag Commissioner.
Good afternoon, Athens. How are y'all doing? We got any MAGA Republicans in here? Wait. The other MAGA Republicans, the ones that want to make agriculture great again. We got any farmers in here? We got anybody in agriculture in here? Oh, come on, I'm in East Texas. I thought it'd be like 80%. Well, hey, let's just thank, real quick, let's just thank all the farmers that help feed us all across America. Listen, we have got some huge challenges in agriculture. I was just down in Beaumont meeting with some rice farmers, and they told me, Nathan, we just sold our crop for 40% less than it actually cost us to make it. 40% less. Now, I don't know about you, but I do not think that that is sustainable. We always talk about sustainability in agriculture, and that is not it. We lost 68 farms this week in Texas, and last week, and the week before, and all the way back to 2018, we've lost 18,000 farming and ranching families in our great state. Why? Because farmers can't afford to be in business anymore. In 1980, a farmer made 40 cents of every $1 of food. Today, they make 15 cents. That's your revenue. Anybody want a job that you make 60% less 40 years into your career? No. That's why we're losing agriculture. And not only are we losing agriculture, we're losing 4th and 5th generation families. And, you know, agriculture is one of these industries, probably the only industry that actually has a hotline for suicide. Because there's so much shame associated with being the one that lost the 4th or the 5th generation family farm. They need us to come alongside them, and we can do better. We have tools. We have tools inside the Texas Department of Agriculture. Unfortunately, we don't have leadership that knows how to lead and use those tools. But at the same time, people are getting sick from the food that they eat. Anybody think that the food that we eat is connected to our health? Absolutely. You know what? We talk about being first in education in Texas, making an investment into our kids. We were 44th in the nation in nutritional value in our school lunch program in 2024. 44th out of 50. You think our kids perform according to how they are fed? Absolutely. We've been pursuing cheap calories in America for decades. But those cheap calories have resulted in 70% of all Americans have one chronic disease or more. 78% of kids 18 to 25 cannot even serve in the military because of their health. And we spend $4 trillion a year treating symptoms of diseases related to the food that we eat. In our pursuit of cheap calories, we're paying for them. We're just paying for them in the back end in both healthcare costs and in quality of life. But praise the Lord that we have a president who sees two things as national security issues. One, agriculture. Because we've become reliant upon adversarial countries to actually be involved in us feeding ourselves. That is a national security issue. And secondly, he sees the health of Americans as a national security issue. When we spend so much of our national budget dealing with symptoms related to the food that we eat, that's a problem. And so that's why he put Bobby Kennedy, praise the Lord for Bobby Kennedy, and Brooke Rollins, and they took that food pyramid and they turned that thing upside down, and everything in that food pyramid comes right off the farm, right off the ranch. It is the golden age of agriculture in front of us, and we need it because, man, farming and ranching, we're losing it like never before. But that is why I'm running. I spent a little bit of time in agriculture. I served our military. I served our country in the Navy for 6 years. I served in full-time ministry for 14 years. And then I started with this one little beehive and turned it in what's the largest honey company in America today, called Nature Nates. Get it? Nate Sheets, Nature Nates, little connectivity there. So I know how to grow brands. I know how to drive revenue. And that's the problem that farmers and ranchers have. They have a revenue problem. And we would help bring farmers and ranchers closer to all of us that eat food and take those monies that historically is between us and help push them towards agriculture and lower prices at the same time and make it affordable for everybody. That's why I'm running for be your next Texas Agriculture Commissioner. But I got to have your help. I need you guys to go out and vote. My opponent's been in there a long time, but we cannot afford another 4 years of this guy in the office. And it's just not me. We've got the greatest governor in the United States who's endorsed me, Governor Greg Abbott. We got the Texas Farm Bureau, 500,000 agriculture families across Texas have endorsed me. We got the Texas Cattle Raisers, Texas Cattle Feeders, the Wildlife Association, and all the grassroots. They've all endorsed because everyone knows we cannot afford another 4 years under my opponent. And so that's why I need you to vote for Nate Sheets for Texas Ag Commissioner. Thank you. God bless you, and God bless the great state of Texas.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Cody Harris. I'm state representative for House District 8, and Keith Bell and I share Henderson County. So thank you. It's such an honor to be here with you today to welcome, somebody who I consider a personal friend and somebody that I've worked very closely with to protect East Texas. That's why I'm running again, is to protect our communities, to protect our way of life and our values. I'm honored to have my friends here with me today, State Representative Keith Bell, State Representative Ryan Guillen from down in the Valley. He used to be a Democrat, saw the light. Now he's one of our Republicans. And then another good friend of mine, Trent Ashby, who served with us in the House. He's running for State Senate now. I fully support Trent, so Trent, thank you for being here. Texas is the envy of the nation, right? We are the conservative beacon for the rest of the United States. The 8th largest economy in the world, 1,600 people a day moving here every single day. And it's because of the leadership that we have at the top of the ticket and in the state legislature. And so when we're normally focused on all these big things that we've gotten done, man, I'm so proud of what we've been able to get done on conservative issues at the state capitol. And then along comes something very local that you think is very local. And so this summer we had a pretty local issue pop up, which was a fight over our groundwater, right? Everybody's familiar with what happened. And so thanks to my relationship with the governor, he agreed to put our issue on the special session call. And he gave me the ability to elevate this whole issue to a level where it's no longer a local issue. People throughout the state legislature now understand that you can't harm East Texas groundwater and not harm the rest of the state and future generations of Texas. So groundwater is the flag that I'm planting. That's the hill that I'm willing to die on for our communities, because if we don't have it, if we don't fight hard to make sure that people from outside of here can't come in and take it, then these kids sitting on the front row, the kids who are here today, they won't enjoy the same East Texas that we're enjoying right now. So with that, it is my honor to introduce to you guys who you're all here to see. My friend and the governor of the great state of Texas, Governor Greg Abbott.
Howdy, Athens, Texas. Great to be back again. Please give it up for your state representative, Cody Harris. Doing a great job. So let me tell you where I was this weekend. This weekend I was in the White House with Donald J. Trump. And I told President Trump where I was going to be today. He said, Governor, be sure and tell East Texas how much he loves East Texas. He says East Texas is Trump country. Listen, I know the values of East Texas because I grew up in Longview, Texas. And listen, for a vacation, we would drive down to Athens. But this is, so my heart, my soul, my values, who I am as a person, were built in Longview, Texas. In the oldest Boy Scout troop in East Texas, Troop 201, I learned what it meant to live off of our land. I know what it means to preserve our land, what it means to preserve East Texas. And as your governor, as Cody Harris was pointing out, I have fought to preserve the East Texas I knew as a kid that I want for future generations to be able to inherit, just like I was able to inherit. Listen, it's about values. Listen, the people in this room, listen, we all got values. And there's different ways we can talk about those values, whether it be through our faith or our passion for freedom, whatever the case may be. There's another way that we can talk about it, something that we all fight for in this election, going forward every single day. By God, we have to keep Texas, Texas, if we're going to save this state and save our nation. Y'all know what I mean when I'm talking about that. And we got to make sure others across this entire state understand it. And we got to make sure that when people go to the polls, they vote to keep Texas, Texas. And that means supporting all of these candidates for office right up here. And it means everybody doing their part to turn out, go to the ballot box, take other people with you to make sure we paint Texas red this election cycle. Mark my words, listen, if you guys are following politics, you know there's a very dangerous group of people who are running, I'll say masquerading as Democrats, because they're not really Democrats. They're not even progressives. These are socialists trying to impose their socialistic policies, and that's something we don't take kind to here in the state of Texas. Know what I mean? And so we're fighting back against it. Let me tell you something. It's the kind of thing you wouldn't see in Athens, but I'm sure sometimes you've driven over to Dallas or something like that, maybe driven down to Houston. Listen, you got socialists, self-identified socialists. They're not hiding it. Socialists running Dallas, Houston, Austin, San Antonio, and other places. Let me tell you one thing they did. These crazy judges, the judges run on the ballot as socialists, and they judge as socialists, and they don't believe in keeping dangerous criminals behind bars. They allowed dangerous murderers who had been arrested out on easy bail, and those murderers went on to kill more than 200 other Texans because of these dangerous judges. I talked to these representatives, and we said, we cannot let that happen in Texas, and so we passed a law that will now ensure those dangerous criminals remain where they belong, and that is behind bars. Now, you all saw right here in Texas the same socialistic behavior that we saw in Minnesota. And remember in the defund the police movement, it was in Portland and Seattle and LA and Chicago and New York, et cetera. It showed up in Dallas and Houston and Austin, et cetera. I'd be shocked if anyone did it and survived here in Athens, Texas. But let me tell you something. When I saw it happening, I said, I will not allow the defund the police movement take hold in Texas. And so again, I got together with your representatives and signed a law saying we will defund any city that defunds their police in the state of Texas. In Texas, we support our law enforcement officers, period. Listen, we also protected you from foreign adversaries, one of which was this way, and that is we heard foreign adversaries wanted to buy our land in the state of Texas. And I signed the toughest law of any state in America, banning foreign adversaries like China from buying our land, buying our water, tapping into our grid. And something else is going on. If you guys have followed what's going on in the Dallas area, what's going on, there was this radical Islamic center called Epic Center. They tried to create a Muslim-only community, which is against the law in the state of Texas. 5 state agencies intervened and shut it down. Epic City never broke ground. However, they thought they were being savvy, but we caught on to it. They rebranded themselves as the Meadow, and then they tried to buy some adjacent land where they were about to build again. We discovered what was going on. We gave that information to the Attorney General. The Attorney General has filed a lawsuit, and we have stopped the Meadow from being able to break ground. And they got to my desk a law that I was able to sign to prohibit any Muslim-only development from ever existing in the state of Texas, and we are going to ban Sharia law in our state. There's a lot to do. You know, something else that we protected, and this is kind of even crazy. We could even talk about this. You know, a lot of what I'm talking about is just common sense. It's common sense to support law enforcement. It's common sense to ensure election integrity. You know, and so we passed a law we shouldn't have had to pass, but we did. We passed a law saying in Texas elections, only U.S. citizens can vote in our elections in Texas. Common sense. Common sense, by the way, that was rejected by Democrats. Just remember that. They are against common sense. Other things that we did, this is another common sense thing. This is easy to support. When you look at the devastation caused by Joe Biden with his open border policies, when you saw more than 11 or 12 or 13 million people cross the border illegally in just 4 years, coming from more than 150 different countries, many of whom were known for and sought for murder, rape, and other crimes. That's why Texas stepped up and did what no other state's ever done. Texas is the only state to build our own border wall. We were the pioneers putting those big orange buoys in the river, stopping illegal crossings. We had our National Guard, thousands of them, on the border, building military-grade razor wire border barrier to deny illegal entry into our state, securing our state like never before. I want you to know something. Even though we now have a president who's actually enforcing the immigration laws, does not mean we've taken our eye off the ball. We remain firmly fixed, ensuring that we're going to secure the border not just for the next 3 years. We want that border secure for the next 3, 4, or 5 decades to make sure we protect our state from such an invasion in the future. There's a lot of things that Texas ranks number 1 at. As Cody and some others made reference to, listen, we're number 1 for jobs, number 1 for the economy, number 1 for so many other things, but this past session, I set my sights on another number 1 ranking. I want Texas to rank number 1 in America for educating our children. The school choice program was a pathway along that trajectory to be number one. In fact, I came here to Athens, Texas, and had an event at a private school willing to step up and provide an education for parents who want to choose that pathway, because we know this. A parent knows their child better than any government person. And we want to empower those parents to choose the education path that's best for their child. But we also know that almost all of our students are still going to be going to public schools. So we want to have the best public schools. And that's why we provided an all-time record increase in school funding, more than $8 billion more, to ensure we have the best public schools in the United States of America. And we know that the most important thing in educating our kids are the teachers. And so we invested in those teachers, providing them an all-time record pay raise, more than $4 billion going to pay our teachers more. But here's the deal. We can have the best teachers in the world, but still not have good education if we have a bad curriculum. And so we course corrected and made sure that we got back to a good curriculum, making sure that our kids were focusing on reading and writing and math and science, and yes, have our kids do phonics and cursive writing once again. But also getting rid of all the junk that was being crammed down them through indoctrination, and that's why they got to my desk and I signed the toughest ban on DEI in public schools of any state in the United States of America. And again, just a common sense law that I signed. And I shouldn't have had to sign it because the problem should never exist. A law that exists in Texas that bans boys from participating in girls' sports in our schools. Well, there's something else that, listen, all of us understand, and that is we're all dealing with financial stresses. We're all dealing with the cost of living and things like that. And that's why we're focused keenly on making sure that that issue goes fully addressed. And it comes up in so many ways. You know, one thing in talking to Texans across the state, and that is if you're a restaurant owner like this, a small business owner, or if you just live in a home or just drive a car, the cost of insurance is going through the roof. And yeah, so you feel the pain. So it's not going up like 3 or 4 or 5%. It's doubling, tripling, going up 100 or 200%. It has to end, and we cannot end this next session without cutting your insurance costs in half in the state of Texas. But that's, you know, we're number one for business. However, small businesses are most of our businesses. More than 98% of all businesses in Texas are small. And so we wanted to make sure we could make them be more successful. And so we passed a personal property tax exemption where they don't have to pay. Let me put it this way. Small businesses have exemptions on property like these chairs, these lights, the refrigerators, whatever. The first $2,500 was exempt from property taxes. To be honest, that's not a whole lot. And so we increased that from $2,500 to $125,000 exemption for all of our small businesses across the state of Texas. But listen, we know that one of the biggest expenses you're dealing with, one of the biggest, let's say, affordability issues you're facing is living in your own home. It's getting more expensive, whether it be insurance or your skyrocketing property taxes. So let me tell you what we've done, and let me tell you what we got to do. What we did this past session is what we did in the last few sessions. We increased your homestead exemption. When I became governor, your homestead exemption was $15,000. What that meant is the first $15,000 valuation of your home was not subject to the school district property tax. Now we've increased that all the way to $140,000. So the first $140,000 of your home, you don't pay a school district property tax. Instead, the state of Texas pays for that cost for our public schools. And if you were a senior, none of whom are here today, but if you were a senior, it'd be the first $200,000. But here's the deal. That makes it better, but doesn't really take care of you, because I'll tell you this. No one in Texas has ever come up to me and said, you know what, Governor? I'm perfectly happy with the taxes I'm paying on my home. And you're not. And so here's the deal. We cannot go back to Austin, Texas, and try to do again what we've done in the past. So I put together a solution based upon ideas I got here in East Texas, South Texas, North Texas, and West Texas. Everybody agrees on these principles. Number one, stop the thing that's causing your taxes to go up in the first place, and that is increased spending. Any property tax in jurisdiction must be limited on their increasing of spending your money, because that money should remain in your pocket. Number two, you should never have a property tax imposed on you without you having a voice in that decision. What that means is every property tax increase should be subject to a vote and should be required to get 2/3 vote before it passes. Next, I don't know about you guys, but I know most people in the state of Texas are suffering because of skyrocketing appraisals. And, I'll be honest with you. There's a reason for it. Under current Texas law, your appraisals can increase as much as 10% a year. So imagine what that looks like after just a few years. It makes it so you are unable to stay in your home. That must end. And we must lower that appraisal from 10% a year to no more than just 3% a year. And stop having you to go through that appraisal process every single year. Do that only once every 5 years. So when we get all of that done, that's going to dramatically reduce your property taxes. But when you add in this final item alone will slash your property taxes in half, because the largest part of your property tax is your school district property tax. And here's the deal. Funding schools shouldn't be the responsibility of a homeowner. It's the responsibility of the state of Texas. And so it's time that we stop using your homestead to fund education. Instead, the state of Texas should be solely responsible for funding education in the state of Texas. So here's the deal. When we slash your insurance costs, when we cut your property taxes by more than half, when we cut through all the red tape that causes the cost of operating a restaurant like this, Texas is going to quickly become maybe the most affordable state in the United States. And that's a double-edged sword. Because when that happens, you know what's going to happen next, right? You're exactly right. Californians, New Yorkers, Illinoisans, and that's what they're called, people from across the country are going to be coming here. But listen, there's a reason why I'm your governor. Because I've thought about that. And here's what we're going to do. When we get all that stuff passed, to stop all those people from coming in, we're going to stop building that border on the southern border, that wall on the southern border. We're going to start building the wall on the northern border, on the eastern border, on our western border. Keep the real invaders from coming in here. But listen, all of this will only happen if we defeat the socialists. All of it's going to happen if we go out and vote. Remember, speeches don't win elections. Campaign ads don't win elections. Votes win elections. We've got to have people go out and vote. And not just you. Listen, we got a great crowd here. And many of you have voted. Many of you would say that you voted if I asked, so I'm not going to ask. But the fact of the matter is, we need every family member of yours, every neighbor of yours, everyone who goes to church with you, everyone who goes to this restaurant with you. They have to all go vote because they're turning out in droves. If you want to be governed by East Texas values, East Texas voters have to show up at the polls. Otherwise, you're going to be governed by Austin, Texas values. And that's the last thing we need to happen to East Texas. So listen, you've been great. Just remember this, there is a way we can all come together. And that is, once again, through our values. We all in this room, I think, we agree that we believe in God over government, right? We believe in freedom over fear. We believe in the unique, inherent greatness of what it actually means to be a Texan. And we're proud about that. So we come together and become an indomitable force. We will ensure that these progressive leftists are not going to have any chance of pushing our state farther to the left, and together we will keep Texas, Texas. So thank y'all. Listen, y'all been a great crowd, and here's what I want to do. I want to make sure everybody goes to vote. And so I'm going to stay here and take a picture with anybody who wants a picture if you promise that you will go vote. So if you've already voted, you also get a picture. Hold on. I got to be clear about this because I'm not going to let these people off, those who have not yet voted. I'm going to let you off that easy. Here, the information I have, the closest voting location to where we are right now is Henderson County Senior Citizen Center. Everybody knows where that is, right? So I have, down the road. Listen, it's about a mile and a half. Let's be honest about something. I could roll there in 5 minutes, okay? And if I can do that, you guys can walk there or drive there just as easily. So I'm going to step here and take pictures. This guy's going to come up and tell you how we're going to do that. I look forward to talking to you personally, but I want to thank you in advance for doing your part to keep Texas red. God bless you all, and God bless the great state of Texas.